Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm David Clement, guest hosting for Tanya Granick-Allen. Canada is, to put it bluntly, in a housing affordability crisis. Over the past 2 years, home prices have skyrocketed, rents are following suit, which is leaving many families struggling to either buy a home or afford rent. How bad is the housing situation in Canada? What are the root causes? Will rising interest rates help tame prices? And what other policies could be enacted at all levels of government to help solve the problem? Joining me to discuss this is Peter Shawn Taylor, the Senior Features Editor with the C2C Journal. Peter, thank you for joining me on Counterpoint.
It's a pleasure to be here, David.
So give viewers a run-through of just how, what does reality look like in terms of the housing crisis right now? Increased prices, rents going up. Is that what we're continuing to see?
Well, I think everyone's familiar with the huge year-over-year 25-30% price increases. We've seen a little bit of a climb down in the last month or so, as I'm sure you're aware, with the Bank of Canada raising interest rates, which has cooled things. So for people that follow the housing market as if it's a kind of a hockey game, who's that day by day kind of thing. Everyone's talking about the housing market has fallen off. That we've seen some fairly significant price drops in some markets, but I think the bigger, we got to keep eye on the bigger picture here, and that's the prices are going to continue to rise, maybe not in the spectacular fashion that we've seen over the past couple of years, but there's no question the fundamentals, which we can get into, the fundamentals haven't changed, even if interest rates have gone up a percentage point or so. So overall, it's still an unaffordable hot market, I guess, despite the sort of the micro features in the last month or two.
And by those fundamentals, I assume you're alluding to undersupply or chronic undersupply. Can you explain or elaborate a little bit more on just how undersupplied the Canadian housing market is?
Sure. I mean, basic economics, it's supply and demand is going to continue to rise, especially through immigration. The federal government has plans to bring in 400,000 new immigrants every year going forward. So those are getting funneled straight into the housing market. New immigrants need a place to stay, same way that growing Canadian families also need a place to stay. So on the demand side, there's no letting up. And on the supply side, there's been for decades really the municipal governments, which is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, in building new houses. It's been really sclerotic. So you talk to developers, and they say in the old days you could get a housing development approved in maybe 18 months. Now you're talking 5 years, maybe to go on for a decade for really big development, high rise, et cetera. So on the supply side, Canada has really been underperforming. You look internationally, Scotiabank has done some good work comparing Canada with the other G7 countries. We're the worst in terms of building houses per capita. Mm-hmm. And within Canada, Ontario is the worst. Your biggest province is the one that's doing the least effective job of putting more foundations in the ground, so to speak. So Canada really is underperforming in terms of supply, but the demand side just shows no sign of letting up because we're a growing country.
We have about a minute before we go to break. Would you describe some of those local issues as a prevalence of NIMBYism or not in my backyard-ism?
Sure, that's one aspect. There's other aspects. City councils like to create heritage designations. They like to create things that the look and the feel of neighborhoods, setbacks. Some cities will regulate roof slopes and all sorts of things like that. But certainly the NIMBYism, the fact that local community associations feel empowered to fight back against what someone can do with a piece of property that they own, is probably the most visible sign of this kind of blockage to getting new buildings built, new housing on the market.
You raise a good point about property rights. We're going to address that when we come right back from the break.